Hello and welcome to,
Hey, we like your pod.
and we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined as always by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. How you doing, Matt? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. This is strange going every other week with you right now.
I
'Cause
know.
It's like I get that in between week where I'm like, all right, time to talk to Dawn. No, wait a minute.
So much has
Dude,
happened.
I
Seems
know.
like forever.
Indeed. So yeah, I'm great. Really happy to be here with you, Dawn. It's kind of an interesting time at work because things are ramping up. And at the same time, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, at the same time, it's super cold outside here. It's like super cold, Dawn. We keep getting snow. It's like it's
Oh,
very Wisconsin and Cincinnati right now. It's very strange. But
oh wow, that's
the kids are
exciting.
thriving and doing awesome and everything's good here.
Yay.
So yeah, it's always so weird too when we get to like that sort of nothing's happening in football. We're between the end of the
Mm-hmm.
season and we haven't even had the combine and like just draft content is kind of wrapping or not wrapping up, but sort of what's the word? Ramping up.
Ramping.
Yeah, I missed there. It's ramping up, but I'm not fully in like draft
Right.
content consumption mode yet. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
weird space, but I know I'm babbling at this point, but that's the thing I
No,
like about that is it gives me the chance to explore some other podcasts from like just outside of football. So I've been
cool.
having a good time checking other stuff out, which has been
Cool.
nice. But yeah, I'm just happy to be here to talk some podcasts, some football, some positivity with you, Don. How are you doing?
Yay. Well, it's great. I'm doing great. It is snowing a lot. I didn't look at the weather. I'm sorry. I live in a little bubble over here, but I do know that it's snowing and it's kind of an unusually blizzard where my niece lives in Virginia. I know this because she had to have a surgery today, which went great. I'm really happy about that. I'm very relieved. But she had to go through a blizzard to get to her surgery this morning.
Wow.
In Virginia is kind of not like super high north, so it's more like your level of northness, right? It's almost considered the south.
Virginia? Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, just south
What
of
is the
DC.
latitude there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's pretty. Anyway, so I was surprised. I mean, she mentioned it, but I'm used to talking to my family in Wisconsin and hearing about snow,
Mhm.
and then we have the mountains up here, so
Right.
people like to go skiing. So I hear about that, but yeah, I guess there's like some kind of blizzard thing going on in the whole part of the country that I didn't know about.
Yeah, Dusty mentioned on Pack a Day this week that they've gotten a crazy amount of snow in Kentucky, so it's just missing us up here in
Wow.
Cincinnati. I'm only like about an hour or so away from where he's at. So yeah, it's been a lot of rough snow. We had a couple of like guerrilla warfare snows. Basically, like in the morning we get like an inch, and then it kind of backs away. Comes in the next day, inch backs away. So it's been weird. Like waking up, it's like, why is there? I don't know. It snowed. What? I have no idea. It's happened like 3 times this week. So yeah, weird
Trying
week
to
for weather.
tricky snow,
Yes.
tricky. Well, it's been like so because we're going every other week for a little bit here. I haven't talked to you except for texting you, of course, since the Super Bowl, which I boycotted. But
Is that right? Has it been since before the Super Bowl?
yes,
Lost track of time, I guess. That's crazy.
yes, because it was right after our last show, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Okay, so I did boycott. I stuck to my guns. I stuck to my gun because I even said, well, if it's really a fun game or something and people are texting me, I might look. But what I did, I was going to just like watch a movie, do something completely to take my brain out of it. But then at the last minute, I'm like, oh, Tom Grassi is always streaming. So I can watch Tom Grassi and not watch the game. So I'm technically not giving the NFL any views, and I'm in supporting Tom. And I had such a great time because I haven't done that in so long, where I just listened to his show. He's so fun. And by the way, he's in the middle still of his fundraiser. He's trying to get to 1 million. and I think
Mhm.
he's close to 500,000. So he's been doing like this
Wow.
mega day
Mhm.
stream right now. Tom doing great work out there. But in any case, I did have a great time with Tom Grassi. And
Mhm.
so I knew what was going on. And it seemed like last week I just had so much fun because of the way that game turned out. I was just watching I was just watching everything about what the Eagles did right, what the Kansas City did wrong.
Mhm.
I completely watched everything and read everything I could about cover 4 because that's all the game was. I'm like, okay. And I just had so much fun with, like with friends and like my
Mhm.
sister. We were just laughing. And I mean, that first call, like the first call of the game with a
Mhm.
offensive pass interference, we were all like, oh no, here we go. Right. But there was nothing even the refs could do. And that's
There's
what
no
I
little calls they could do to shift the tide of the game. It was too far gone.
no way. It was,
Yeah.
and I've said that it's like it's gonna take a blowout. And I did feel like the Eagles could do it. And what was really part of the narrative that really annoyed me up until leading up to the Super Bowl was all these big shots, on the national coverage. I won't name
Mhm.
any names, but they're like, well, the Eagles are the most complete team and they're the better team, but I'm going to call for the Chiefs, right? I'm going to go.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I was just like, well, that's dumb. Just say it's going to be the Eagles if you think that. So that just adds into people's conspiracy theories because now you're talking about people relying on that information for betting, and some of them were betting, and
Mhm.
so it just, oh, this is great. True North says Tom Grassi is currently at
Mhm.
$568,056. Thank you, True North. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And bye,
Keep running.
hi, Lorenzo. That's fantastic. Anyway, sorry to interrupt my thought there, but I just, apart from that very first funny call, it was kind of like, oh, they very rarely do the refs call offensive pass interference. And
Mhm.
since I wasn't watching, and I'm sure they replayed it and everyone was like, well, yeah, technically, but it was one of those, well, they don't usually call that. So
Mhm.
I was just like, see, this is why I'm boycotting. But my whole thing wasn't boycotting just because of the refs. It was just like
Mhm.
the whole thing. But in
The
any
whole thing.
case, that gave me so much joy to that game. Not just that, but I mean, it's just like they really did a great job, the Eagles, right? They really
Yeah.
just,
It was very impressive. Yeah.
yes. And that's what you want to see, even though I wasn't watching it. I did cheat like in the fourth quarter. I can't remember why. I was like, I'm going to quick look at the game. I can't remember the reason was, if they were going to play something back or whatever. I can't remember. But I did. I looked, and it was kind of weird because I'm like, they're dumping the Gatorade on Sirianni's head, and there's like 6 minutes left to the
Yeah.
game.
It was over.
That was
It was over in
so
the third quarter. I
insulting.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was over before halftime, I think. It's like, okay, everyone's like, well, it's the Chiefs, they can always come back, but it just looked so bad. Oh my goodness. But so I had a lot of fun last week, like looking
Mhm.
at, and I even watched the parade a little bit, which I do something. I do watch
Uh-huh.
the parade. I watched it a little bit, I think last year. Of course, someone got shot, and then it reminded me, it's like somebody got shot. Remember last year at the Kansas City parade, the
I forgot all
players,
about that.
yeah, they all culminate. Now the Eagles, they ended up at the Philadelphia Art Institute or Art Museum where the Rocky Steps are, which is
Mhm.
really cool. So I thought that was
Yeah.
cool. But then, yeah, so last year when it came time for the parade to end and the players for the Chiefs to bid up on the stage and do whatever their little speeches were, and the coaches, somebody got shot. I mean, they did do most of their speeches, but
Mhm.
they were just like, you know what else I really liked? I know I sound like a prude, but I really thought it was dignified, and the players all had really nice, short, well done little speeches, and they weren't like drunk on their buns like the Kansas City Chiefs were last. They were like slurring and sloppy drunk, which
Mhm.
is fine, but like do that like after the show, like after the
Sure.
oh
Yeah.
I don't know thing where you have the Lombardi and all. They just seem more dignified, and I really appreciated that too.
Yeah, I didn't catch any of that. I totally agree. That's classy. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Of all the teams to call them classy,
I know. And I was like, they
surprising to
really
say
pulled it
that.
together. Did you catch any of that? I suppose you were working.
Caught none
Yeah.
of it. No, this is all news to me what you're saying here today.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Well, I did enjoy it. So that was when I kind of put everything, I guess that was last Friday. Now it feels like that was 2 months ago to me.
Yeah,
It
seriously.
just seems
Yeah.
like it just seems like the season's been over forever, and it just seems like a really long time. So to me, I feel good about starting to gradually transition into draft
Yes.
content, for the
Gradually.
combine and
Yes.
all that. Yes, yes. So with that, yes. So, and I just got another little update. My niece is still doing great. So
Oh, good. Good.
I'm super happy. So with that, how about we swoop? It's time for this week's superlatives.
Yes, superlatives. I was going to say real fast later on, just real quickly. If anybody who's listening right now, not like watching us live, but is listening after the fact, hasn't caught our episode with Dara Carragher from a few weeks back, you pause this, go listen to that. It was awesome. But I say this because a point that he made about the way how European fans tend to fan about football versus how American fans tend to is that in America there's much more of a emphasis on like the story, the narratives, trying to like draw that out of it. And he said that he doesn't really get why that's a thing, which I thought was really fascinating. I was like, what does he mean? But then everything after that, going through the Super Bowl, you even just said like the story going into it, like it's all these narratives that are trying to be made about it by fans, by analysts, pundits, by kind of everybody. And so I've become keenly aware of that. So I just want to throw that in real fast before we got to superlatives.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded us because I really caught that too. And I was already kind of aware of that. But it was interesting that he said that's what he likes, though, because they don't have that. Where in Europe, they more focus on statistics and numbers and all that, which is great. But he really appreciates the narrative. And by the way, I was thinking of him down in New Orleans. Dara, I hope you had a great time. If you're listening, I hope you had the time of your life. It seemed like a really fun game to watch. I mean, it was fun for a lot of reasons, but it was fun. Very great performance. And that's what you want to see, a great performance. I mean, you'd like to see both teams. Again, I watched the Chiefs all year, and I just didn't feel like I saw the greatness. And that was why I was pretty offended with these people these big national broadcasters and whatnot trying to say that people who you don't want the Chiefs to win or don't support the Chiefs don't want to support greatness in football. I don't agree with that. I didn't agree with that. And I think it was pretty much on display how they played all year. They just squeaked by. Sure, they're not bad. I mean, they're not a bad team. No one's saying that. Yeah. But this is what happens. And I'm surprised because Andy Reid really, like, I think some people were saying that, he coached, the plan was to hold Saquon down to minimal running yards, but that there was no other plan.
Yeah.
And it did seem like it. And that surprises me. Maybe he just was, I'm sure he feels terrible. Sorry, Andy. But yeah.
He's good. He's got his Scrooge McDuck, pools of gold coins, I'm sure. So he's
and all of his Big Macs. He'll feel better. Yeah. So I think I kind of gave away one of my superlatives. The best boycott alternative: Super Bowl 59, Chiefs versus Eagle live play-by-play and reaction with Tom Grassi. It's just great as always from Tom. But it was especially fun to have that choice, and I didn't even plan it until like actually I was gonna like find a movie, I was gonna rent it, whatever, and I didn't even realize the game was starting, and so I went on YouTube because you can get movies on YouTube, and I was like, oh, it started, and so I just popped over there to say hi, and never left. I was having such a good time.
Yeah.
And so if you ever, during any game, like I said, I usually catch a couple games during the year that he live streams. It's just so much fun. So that was my best boycott alternative. And you can tuck that away for any other future time we might need to boycott a game, or just listen to Tom instead of watching.
Listen to Tom. He's great.
Yeah.
Very nice, Dawn. I love it. So I'm going to highlight a comment from our friend True North Packers fan, because it really leads into my first superlative nicely. So he says, congrats to Sterling Sharp on getting inducted to the NFL Hall of Fame. Well, my first superlative, Dawn, is most insightful. So this is going out to Pete Doherty and our friend J.R. Radcliffe on the Green 19 podcast from February 7th. Going back a little bit here, almost a full 2 weeks. They were talking about the process for electing players to the Football Hall of Fame, because Pete Doherty is one of the people who has a vote. So he was talking about that process has looked like when, like back in the day, how it would be like they'd actually be meeting in person. It'd be a one-day process to like talk about, okay, here's what we're going to nominate. Here's what it should be. Let's kind of make some cases quickly, and it's a done deal. It's kind of more about efficient procedure, but at the same time, there was some stuff missing from doing that. So now it's a little more drawn out, and it's a Zoom call now, of course, but it's still like a pretty lengthy call to talk through it. Talked about how the voting has to go for a person to be inducted, and it's actually really hard to get in, even once you get to that point where they make the voting. But like people give speeches on behalf of the different candidates. I can't remember what the exact like voting structure is, and I guess it's changed a lot for various years. They've tweaked a lot of it, just like they tweak NFL rules all the time. The dynamic voting procedure, let's call it, right, this year. So it's been different iterations of it, but just hearing about all this behind the scenes, what it looks like to be one of the people who has a vote and is going through the whole process was super fascinating. One of the most interesting things I've heard, I think, all season, really. So huge shout out to Pete Doherty for sharing his knowledge and his experience with this, and to J.R. Radcliffe for being, as always, a great interviewer, a great host to like draw all that out of Pete, for just a really compelling listen. It was so good.
Oh, I like that, Matt. I like that. So if a player is considered and not chosen, does he then have to go through all that interviewing the next time he's
I guess if they're on the ballot again next year, it'd be the whole entire process again. It can't be like, you guys were here last year, you heard that stuff. I mean, you have to like represent it all, I'm sure. And I'm saying that without knowing definitively, because I don't think that was necessarily talked about, but I'm sure that's what it have to be, right?
So they can be going through this year after year, maybe ostensibly, and then
I think some players have,
right, and then not know. And then did you see the little clip that Shannon Sharp produced? That was so sweet.
It was so good. That wasn't me crying at work when I was watching it.
Never. No, not me either. Oh, that was great. What a good read or video. Is that a video? Most insightful. Is that
I don't know if they do those as video. I was listening, on
podcast,
Apple Podcasts, but
yes,
they might also do video. I'm not sure.
I think they do on YouTube.
I think they might.
But I wasn't, my brain was just took a break there. I forgot you said podcast. Okay, so I was curious. Okay, so most profitable.
Okay.
This is Super Bowl for Las Vegas. So I was curious about the numbers. Let me see if I can grab that up here. I was curious because I was thinking, wow, there were a lot of people who were voting for the Chiefs and buying into all this. I don't even want to say it, three-peat, but whatever. And all that stuff, that narrative that we love and hate. And NFL is good at that, but it's a little
Yes.
too good. It's a little too slick sometimes. In any case, so I was curious, well, what does that mean? Because then Las Vegas probably made a lot of money because a lot of people lost a lot of money voting for or betting
For the Chiefs.
on for the Chiefs.
Yeah, you would think so.
You would think so. And so I just checked it out. And where's the number? It is, oh, sorry, I just had a little, sorry, I was going to give you the number. It was the most profitable.
Okay.
And here it is. So, okay, so it says, okay, sorry. State of New, I'm so sorry. I had the number.
We're getting there, folks. We're getting there.
Well, it's because there's a whole article and I forgot they broke it down to different. So between all bets on the game, and this comes from VegasInsider.com. 4 days post Super Bowl, so these numbers could have changed a little. But between all bets on the game and the futures market, New York Sportsbook took in $154.9 million.
Wow.
Slightly ahead of Nevada's 151.6 million. Even though New York is much bigger. And then it said New York books retained a massive 47.43 million for a win rate of 30%, which surprised me, much to the chagrin of Super Bowl. But win rate must be the opposite. So to the chagrin of Super Bowl bettors. So, and then it said the state's sports book netted a record win of 22.134 million, beating the haul of 19.673 million on 2014 Super Bowl. So that was the highest up until this most recent Super Bowl. So it was the most profitable for Vegas and company for voting. So a lot of people lost money on that. Sad for them. I was just curious.
Yeah,
just one of those things that since we don't have games, what else are we going to do? Like I go down all these rabbit holes. I'm not a rabbit holes
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's the thing is like, True North kind of throws in like, wait, casinos make money, #shocked. Obviously he's being facetious, but well, it's not surprising that they turned a profit. It's the magnitude of it, the amount that they make. It's like they're going to make a lot of profit, but that much, it's just that's crazy. Wow,
it's wild, and and that's why there are conspiracy theories. I don't blame people for thinking,
sure,
but it's also why if you think about it, it's why they can't fix games 100% because no one would bet and then no one would make money. Like Las Vegas wouldn't like that either. They want people betting. So
it has to be uncertain for people to actually bet.
Right. Yeah.
Cool, Dawn. All right, should I do my second one?
Yes.
So there's a new series. This is best new series is the superlative that I'm super excited about, Dawn. I'm just over the moon about this being a thing we can listen to. It is called On the Clock. It is with our friends Andrew Murtick and Kyle Fellows, known as the Draft Fellows. And if you haven't checked this out, they're putting it through the Pack-A-Day podcast stream, but it's like they just do one I guess it's like one draft selection, like as though they're going through, it was like the drafts. They started with like the number one selection, the Titans. Here's what the Titans need. Here's what they might take. Here are some of the top, draft picks that'll be likely to go to the Titans. They're doing it with just one team at a time. There's as of right now, they've got just the first 3 done. And it's so fascinating because these guys, they know their stuff in the draft. It's like their favorite thing. And so they have so much knowledge that they bring to it. And the way they're able to convey these ideas of what the team needs to build, who are the best candidates, they hit this all. It's super informative, but it's also like 8-minute episodes. So you get to take in a lot of good information, start to get a handle on the the draft stuff. Not being overloaded. That's the thing. You're not being overloaded. They're talking about just some of the best players, and you just get a little bit at a time, and you hear why they're good and why they'd be good fits for those teams. It's It's an awesome concept that's being executed extremely well so far. I can't wait for the rest of the other 29 episodes to come out. It's really good stuff.
I hope, part of my thing, I like to listen to the YouTube podcasts because everything's on YouTube now. It used to be Google, but they moved it over. And I'm just going to quick do a search because sometimes the Pack-A-Day stuff it's like real hit and miss, the Pack-A-Day podcast. Probably should tell Andy because he might not be aware. But I'm going to see first if that's on the not that it has to be the video version, but just the podcast.
Yeah.
Because they have YouTube /podcast. That sounds great. I love those two. Great, everything they do is so good. We have to have them back again soon, especially because it's draft time, right?
I agree.
Yes. Okay. And we do have some fun guests lined up. We've just, with my schedule and the changes and all that, we just gotta, everybody's gotta adjust to the new year and stuff. So we'll get back to it. Okay, well done. Okay, so speaking of draft, I'm gonna have to read this one. This is a little gem that I picked up. Do you know who Mark Sklareth is?
The name is familiar. I can't place it. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, former player, and I think he has worked on some teams as well, but now he has a podcast, and he was a guest on Rich Eisen's podcast. And they were talking about basically the title of this show was Mark Sklareth Breaks Down Eagles Super Bowl of Chiefs. Super Bowl of Chiefs. I don't know why. I think that was a mistake with Rich Eisen. In any case, it was an interview. And he's super knowledgeable. I was like, this guy is super knowledgeable. And so I was really paying attention. But in the middle of that, he dropped a little draft gem that I'd like to read. It's just, okay. So here we go. I pulled up the transcript. So he said, oh, shoot, it's gone. All right. So he said a lot of teams suffer because they neglect positions of strength. And they say, hey, that's a position of strength. Let's go chase this receiver. Let's go chase this guy. Oh, man, we need more weapons. So let's chase this. And what he was talking about was the Eagles and how they were successful. But he dropped the way they draft in there. And that, which brought me down another rabbit hole, the Howie Rosen rabbit hole. That's another thing. So he's saying, okay, so I'm just going to read it because it's a little not grammatically correct, but I'll just do it anyway. Let's dominate the line of scrimmage. So that's what the Eagles want to do, right? Let's dominate the line of scrimmage and let's add to our line of scrimmage health. So, when that guys get hurt or guys retire, whatever the case may be, the next dude is ready to step up. And he's been developed over a couple of years. He's not just thrown into the fire. So it's easy to say, hey, there's the blueprint, but it's really hard for teams to have actually go about doing it because they get enamored by workouts. They get enamored by things that don't matter. And that's why the draft, I'm sorry, I'm reading this. That's why, the procurement of your football team is such a difficult thing. And I wanted to that was really important because we've got the combine coming up.
Right.
It takes discipline, it takes understanding, and you actually have to attack it that way. So a lot of teams see it as a blueprint, but a lot of most teams don't have the intestinal fortitude to actually execute it well. So they have this idea, but then when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, let's just get this, weapon, right? And so some of these little bits of insight from people who really know a lot, I like to listen to because, we still should have fun with the draft. Like, if there's nothing wrong with being enamored and wanting a player and all of that, but it's also good to keep in mind that big picture, what if our team drafts a position of strength, somebody that we already have covered.
Hmm.
Um, are we going to have a conniption fit? Are we going to criticize it? Or are we going to think, oh, that's kind of smart? And that evidently is what the Eagles have been doing for years,
Hmm.
and why they are so dominant now,
Hmm.
because they are willing to draft in position of strength, not just go out and get weapons. And so when I hear things like, oh, we need a wide receiver one and we need this, it's like, we need to build this team for the long term. And obviously, we haven't won a Super Bowl for a long time. And I don't know why, if that's shortcomings in the draft, or it's just, it's not that easy to win a Super Bowl. It's
Right.
not that
There's that.
easy to bring it home. But I'm just hoping that the Packers, and I feel like the Packers have more of that mentality that he's talking about, like what the Eagles do,
Hmm.
than say some other teams, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Would agree.
but so I just before I get into what do we need, I mean, I've looked at it a little, like what positions do we need the most.
Mhm.
I kind of want to sprinkle in some of this. What could we really benefit by having a better backup for?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't
Very
know. I thought it was
interesting.
pretty
Yeah.
insightful.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I've since listened to some of his podcasts. He's a little bit preachy and yelly, but I do like him. He's very smart.
Uh-huh.
He has a partner on his podcast, and the partner just sits there, and this guy can talk, but he knows his stuff, right? I
Hmm.
mean, he can talk, but he's just super knowledgeable. So that's Mark
Nice.
Sklareth. But I got introduced to his content because of Rich Eisen. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Rich Eisen, whom we love.
whom we love. Yeah, a little draft gem sprinkled in there, just
Love
to
that.
keep my feet on the ground when I'm looking at all this stuff.
Excellent.
And yeah, what's your next one?
Yeah, so my last superlative, this actually just broke today, I think. I really love this one, Don. I'm putting this is best reporting. So this is
Ooh,
Mike Spofford with a quick hit on how will Green Bay's NFL draft setup look. Get a sneak peek. And so this was really cool because the draft in Green Bay has felt like this abstract thing for, since it's been
mm-hmm.
announced. But what Spoff got his hands on was sort of the mock-ups of what the stage is going to look like, how
Ooh,
things will be set up, where things will be located. Like this is like, fresh news to get this kind of
mm-hmm.
stuff. And like the pictures he was able to post of like what this is going to look like was really cool. I'm
Ooh,
like, I have no plans to go up for the draft. It seems like kind of a zoo. It should be, I mean, it'd be a lot of fun, a lot of awesome people there, blah blah
yeah.
blah. But I will say, seeing this stuff that Spofford was able to put on the Packers.com website, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, ooh,
Yeah,
that sounds like fun. I don't know. So it was
right.
really cool. And just like it's like a quick read. It's just like, hey, we have this stuff. Take a look. But it's really cool.
Cool. Ooh, cool. Yeah, I think for me personally, it's still too cold in April, because that's April, right? I think it's like too cold for me to go to Wisconsin in April. But and I don't know that I would be ready yet, but it's something that I had on my mind too. I was kind of fantasizing about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It
It'll
would
be
be fun
fun for
for sure.
those who, and of course, I think Dusty posted today on Blue Skies that he's getting tempted now to go, even though,
Mm.
yeah,
If he
so
does, I'll have to say, pick me up on the way, man. I'm just up the road
ah,
from him. So road trip.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Share a room. It won't be as expensive if you share
There you
with
go.
somebody.
There you
Yep.
go.
Because imagine it's pricey. I don't know if there are
Oh, it
any
must
rooms
be.
left. If
Yeah.
we're,
Like,
yeah,
how are you gonna find anywhere to stay? Stay in your car.
right,
Won't be that cold that time of
right.
year.
Neato. Mike Spafford. That's awesome. I do have two more. Well, one was just the most fun. So the most fun I had reliving, even though I boycotted
Hmm.
the Super Bowl. It was a film study, and this is It was called Zero Blitzes. Jeremiah Searles, Alex Boone, and Phil Mackey broke down one of the most dominant defensive performances in the NFL history. And it was, just super fun. Since I didn't watch the game, to watch that kind of content, but that one made my like top 10. I probably watched 50. No, I'm not kidding, but I watched quite a bit. How did the Eagles win? How did Kansas City lose? You know, that kind of thing. It was just like reliving it for a whole week. That was fun. Not a whole week, about 3 or 4 days.
Sure. Well, you probably watched so much content. It felt like a week. So yeah,
It did. It did. So my final superlative, totally random, is most dismissive. I think this is interesting. I don't know if you heard this or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning, and I like to follow the legal stuff too. So Will Anderson Jr. and Joe Mixon from the Houston Texans both won their appeals against the NFL because they were fined. Each of them were fined $25,000 for criticizing officials after the Houston Chiefs game.
Yeah.
I'm
glad they won their appeal. That's awesome.
NFL lost and the charges were dismissed, which you don't hear about a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought it was worth mentioning. Now, here's a fun article in USA Today about Mixons. There were some little gems in there that I thought were fun. Hold on. All right. Okay. A letter from the NFL hearing officer, Chris Palmer, stated, after reviewing the totality of the evidence, I find that you did not necessarily publicly criticize the officials. And then culminating in, the NFL will rescind the $25,000 fine amount. So it's almost like they're saying, we're going to rescind it, but you really did. Like, it wasn't a full, it was kind of mealy mouse. I didn't like that very much.
Sure.
He also was fined because he was held responsible for something somebody else said. That was the other part of it. It was like,
what?
I know. And so that kind of a mealy mouse dismissal from the hearings officer, I thought was just nasty, quite frankly.
Yes.
So somebody else wrote, why play the game if every 50-50 calls goes with the Chiefs? And these officials are trash and biased. But he didn't say that. And so he got, I don't know if he liked it or something like that and got fined. But they actually attribute it to Mixon. I don't know. And Mixon said, on social media, probably on X, I'm getting fined by the NFL for what somebody else did. What's next? I get fined for Connor McDavid cross-checking an appointment in an NHL game. Facepalm emoji. So it went kind of back and forth. It was just kind of nice. To see them at least dismiss it. I think I would have liked a better explanation than that from the NFL, but small win, especially coming after that loss by the Chiefs. It was just kind of like, that's great. So most dismissive, it was dismissed, but they were dismissive about the way they dismissed it.
A dismissive dismissal.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, like it.
All right, Maddie. So any final thoughts before we call it a night?
I think just that, now's a good time to help out your friends. Now's a good time to be present for your loved ones. Now is a good time, with it's kind of the part of the year we're at where it's cold a lot of places. People are struggling with stuff. Just be a person for your people. Be there for them. Yeah. That's my final thought, Dawn.
I like it. And there's a lot of need. There's so much need, just even worldwide, right? I mean, the fires are resolved, but there's all this rebuilding in LA. There's huge earthquakes. There's civil wars, and even though I live in a little bubble here, we all kind of living in our own little bubbles, and there's so much need, and there's so many ways people can help. And it's a great reminder, Matt. I appreciate that we can
Yeah,
look around, find somebody to help. But if you don't, I mean, usually there's somebody right there. Like everywhere you turn, somebody needs something.
that is true.
Even if it's just like, I'm a beneficiary of friends, like for my medical appointments or things like that, where I can't drive or I can't drive home. I get so much help from people,
Mhm.
and it's just, it makes my life so much better. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't know what I would do without friends and family. So yeah, it's great. And it's also so great to give. There's nothing better than that feeling when you can help somebody else. So that's a great reminder, Maddie. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks
hmm
from tonight. And with that, I endorse that thought. Let's bring her home.
Let's bring her home. Maybe we'll have a guest. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But looking forward to it in 2 weeks. Well, anyhow, friends, if you'd love to have, or sorry, try that again. Like I haven't read this before. Friends, we'd love to have the chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber and a football fan. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on the podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, Maddie, that's right, because we love you. We're so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod, and we look forward to see you in 2 weeks on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.